here.
You know what? I was talking a little bit with Lily about we really haven't seen too much stacking of the same special on one team. Most of the teams are operating using usually one splashdown, one bubble blower, one baller, and maybe something else like an ink armor. It's possible here because it's Snapper Canal that they could throw in 2 ink storm to make sure that they maintain map control of mid, but I would not be at all surprised here to see that one baller and one bubble blower steal the show.
We'll see right now as the teams get locked in. Winners Finals, Game 1, Genesis 6. Crowd, are you ready for this one?
All right, and taking a look at the team comps here, it looks like Luminous is going with a much more meta composition. This is exactly what they've been sticking with for the most part of the tournament. On the opposite side of things, not really any surprises on the side of Ghost Gaming either. The main surprise for me is that Brian is opting for the scoped version when usually he goes for the Splat Charger, but he's still going to have that very devastating Stingray at his disposal.
Brian already got the better of the Lux matchup. They're taking him out and sending him back to spawn very quickly. Soren only 1 clam away and is actually right there in front to grab. Soren has a nice little layup opportunity right there. Does go down, but first blood will be drawn by Ghost Gaming.
Yeah, no need to baller in that time. Great job by Lux to stare danger in the face and take them down. Dude just trying to farm up this ink armor, and that's one of the things that the H3 really specializes at. If you want ink armors quickly and also very accurate shots, that's the weapon you want to take into the battlefield.
You do. Urza right here now on the bucket. Going to be going in. I love how they're working together to push up through. Urza makes that look so easy. It is not, trust you me. And now we're going to see him just, again, try to distract the members of Luminous here, get them looking a different way while the clam count slowly continues to rise. The baller is still there should they try to do that sort of jump, but it looks like they're taking maybe a little bit too long to get that power clam. I think they lost their advantage. Yeah,
Brian hanging back as well, trying to make sure they have the right opportunity to use the Stingray. The splashdown coming in, that's not going to result in all that much. They do temporarily drop the power clam, but Erza with his quick hands is able to unlock the barrier, but it's not really going to have much follow-up. Nice job to hold on to this and make sure that they didn't get too much past that 70 mark.
And again, they've been fighting just to get back to mid here, and that's, I think, the furthest any of them have come. Luminous has really been playing defense this entire time and hasn't even had a chance to start building up their clams, and that's going to give, again, Ghost Gaming the opportunity to do this. They now have 2 people holding 9. Now it will become 10 here. They're going to do that. I'm certain that if Soren is able to get this kill, he's going to use that baller to push in.
It's not just the clams that they need to build up. Luminous really hasn't had the opportunity to build up their specials. You can see one of them died with their special and another one dying at 92, so getting so close to having the necessary tools to break out of spawn, but Ghost Gaming doing a great job of hanging around, but Lux getting a bit more aggressive with that ballpoint. Splatling is able to take one out, and finally it looks like Luminous is not just out of their spawn, but trying to take control of mid as well.
And as you say that, one of them gets taken down. This is such a fast-paced game. Everybody going down. Muty goes ahead and gets the punishment there onto Urza, but they finally do have a power clam. They have a chance to make something happen here, and they have 3 specials as well. This is the opportunity, but the watchful eye of Brian saying, nah, I don't really like that power clam. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way.
Not just the Stingray coming up with a baller as well, making sure that they can get over to that barricade as quickly as they can. Soren, unfortunately, not able to dodge out the shots of Lux, as Lux, unfortunately, can't clean up that kill, and the barricade will come down once more. Ghost Gaming now has pretty much free reign, while the members of Luminous are coming back from spawn to get more into the basket, but not really. They only are able to get up to 51, not even to the halfway mark, and nice defense again, but defense doesn't always win championships if you don't have just a hint of offense with it.
And really, I think that we can say that Ghost Gaming has been playing a bit defensive too. It seems like they have really been doing their best to guard the center of the map and not let anything get built up again. It's trades all over the place, and then Brian gets the punishment there. Look, they've again forced them all the way back. They've not been able to push in. They have kept control of the clam. So far, the only power clam that we have seen built has been the Flitty clam that they have given them.
That's part of what makes players like Brian so deadly, is that they know exactly when they can afford to be aggressive and when they need to back up, which is usually when they have what he's using right now, which is that Stingray. The baller is going to come out at the same time. Ghost Gaming's done a phenomenal job of using specials multiple at a time instead of one at a time, and Soren not going to be able to really get anybody with that baller, but he will distract them for long enough to break that barricade again, and Erza with another baller to back that up.
These specials are not accidental. You do not get this level of coordination and this level of timing on your specials by just happening upon them here. They know what is going on. They're coordinating. They are making sure that they have the opportunity to end this game. And wow, the very last clam going down there, a full wipe. there's a chance. It's a long road to climb, to say the least.
Right.
A full knockout going to be necessary at this point. But what can Luminous do to build momentum for next game?
They're doing the right thing so far. They have the store of clams available to them, and they're not trying to push too far at a time. They have just over 30 seconds left, which means they can afford to take a little bit of time to take control of mid. They are going to pop one baller here, but they're not going to be able to detonate it. However, Muty taking advantage of their distraction to be able to push ahead, and finally they break the barricade. They do have quite a few clams, but they missed the power clam. Muty able to pick it up once again, but isn't really able to throw it too far. He does end up making it in, but with 2 already down and no real clams available in their sight, all they have is a splash shell, which does work temporarily. Can they jump into dash?
The Scooty Juniors, as we call them there, the Tetra is going to be able to at least keep a little bit more and make this interesting. They did not need much more to make that happen, and I tell you, just barely missing that power clam there, although I know they would have needed some more points on top of that to make that happen. What that did is it forced them to, instead of firing up on the opponents and slowing them down, spend more time to get that power claim in. There's no telling what might have happened. And I said, what can they do to build momentum for the next game? That was signs of life. And we did not see that for the first 4 minutes and 30 seconds of the game.
I've talked a bit in my previous cast about Luminous and how they are much more of a late game team. They are a control team that really likes to be patient with their pushes and not get forced or pressured into making any plays when they don't have to. Ghost Gaming, as you said, for the first 4 to 4.5 minutes, really made it so that they had to commit specials defensively instead of offensively. That's part of why it was so difficult for them to get out of their own spawn, and it only happened a couple of times. But when they did have control of mid, and when Luminous was dictating the pace of play, they were able to do fantastically, and what would have otherwise been a good push was ruined by the fact that Ghost Gaming had dominated the entire rest of the game. So if Ghost Gaming continues to dictate the pace of play, this is going to be a pretty easy 3-0 for them. Otherwise, Luminous can take what they learned in the last 30 seconds plus of that game and implement it going into game number 2.
And to kind of break down the anatomy of that push that they had, it really was Lux who was getting up there with the ballpoint and kind of pushed them forward there. They had stacked 2 people right next to each other and were just kind of bullying them back with the versatility that the ballpoint has. Once they got Brian out of the way, that became possible. And we talked earlier about that relationship. Brian knows how devastating a ballpoint can be. He's probably played it once or twice. But getting Brian out of the way, at least moving him, is going to allow Lux to control more of the map, and I think that's what they're going to need, especially on splat zones on the Reef, because this is, again, a very compressed map. People like to push in with their specials, but there's a lot of close quarters action here, and you need to find a way to get rid of Brian, who can end you instantly.
Yeah, I think Lux is already ahead of the game in that he's being a more aggressive backliner. He's not sitting back and staying passive. When he is available, he's pushing up and getting a couple of quick picks that the frontliners haven't quite been able to. The onus now shifts to people like Dash and Jared to make sure that they can take out Brian and at least will 2v1 them so that they have to choose either taking out Brian or taking out somebody like Erza who might be hanging around Brian as sort of protection. So if they go together as a pair, that's going to be a lot more optimized than them just filtering in 1v1v1.
I think they have the composition to do that. We talked earlier about how they really have 3 strong frontline weapons and then a backliner who can go up, make the plays, as we talked about with Lux. It's not a compositional issue, right? Sometimes we see that in that last set. I would argue that Splatoon Sucks got a bit out-schemed by their opponents there of low-key. We're not going to be seeing that now. In fact, don't be surprised if every game that we see is about the same weapons that we chose there. If you want to see a snapshot of the meta, take a snapshot of what these teams are playing right now.
Yep, and in talking about Splatoon Sucks, their weapon composition wasn't exactly always meta. They were running things like Kensa Rapid Blaster, which is pretty decent, but it's not at the tippy top of the meta. They were still running things like Octo Shot, which again, very, very solid 3-shot kill, but not necessarily in the meta, especially in terms of things like specials. Inkjet is still fun to watch, still fun to use, but it's not at that very top like it was when Splatoon 2 first came out. It really is more about, you know, can you use your baller if you brought one in conjunction with something? Can you use an armor to start a team fight? Are you using that armor at the right time? It doesn't matter, you know, if you're able to build up a bunch of armors. If you're mistiming them when they're not even, the other team isn't even back in the action yet, it's going to go to waste, and the enemy team's just going to wait for it to run out and then use their own specials to counter you.
Diving into it right now, you see the split zones. We've seen them a lot in this tournament. Can be a bit tricky to capture both if you're not careful, but I don't think these two teams are going to leave that to chance.
And it is Splatling v Splatling here as Brian has switched over from that Charger to the Hero Splatling. Dude sticking on his bread and butter for this tournament, which is that H3, so the armor's still going to be coming out. Otherwise, not too many changes. Again, we already see the Kensa Sloshing Machine going down, Jared following suit, so an early advantage for Ghost Gaming, and they're already pressing the advantage. They are not by any means a passive team.
No, they are not. This is, I think that the hallmark of Ghost Gaming is truly their ability to identify and then commit to whatever play they are making. I wouldn't call them a necessarily aggressive team. I wouldn't call them strictly positional masters. They are great at identifying what the opponent is trying to do and adapting to go against it. Brian here knows exactly where Lux is here. Going to go back and forth, knowing that his team is going to help him identify where the opponent is as well. And this is starting to get dangerous as we go just under 50 points already.
And that's a major factor on this map. Brian sitting on that bridge. The bridge is exactly where you want your backliner to be set up. They may be forced back just a little bit as this Inkstrom comes out from Luminous. They follow that up with a baller as well. Jared staying alive in part thanks to the help of Dash's splashdown, but that's 3 specials that they had to expend, and they were just barely able to get the zone. So nice job there, but I wonder if it was too much that they had to use, and if Ghost Gaming will have something, because it looks like Brian already has another Stingray at the ready.
Well, if there is one good fortune in that situation, it did take them 3 specials to get the zone, but they also took the members of Ghost down one by one. So it is going to stagger their spawn ever so slightly, and it means that it will take a little longer for Ghost to get all their specials going at the same time. You can see they were able to milk just a little bit more time off the clock, but 62, not enough.
Yeah, Jared has the right idea in terms of the aggression, but in that last fight was caught between 2 specials, the Ink Armor and the Stingray, and that's exactly what you want to do there. Dash rolling in to get a quick pick, looking for a second on the dude, and will do it with the second roll. Didn't have to use the splashdown either. That's one of the most important things you can do, is not use your special if you don't have to, so that you can save it to combine with your team.
I like the idea of moving up with the baller there, but got just a little overzealous. And yeah, Jared, there weren't a whole lot of places you could go there. Urza easily sniffing that one out. It does help that the Sloshing Machine has a generous hitbox to go ahead and sniff that one out as well. But now look, the aggression has already gone back the other way. The spot where we just saw the pressure being put on the other side of the map, Urza now applying back that way.
And this is not a very huge map at all, so once you get 3 down or fully wiped, you are going to have a tough time getting out of your spawn, especially with the team playing as aggressively right now as Ghost Gaming. Brian popping the Stingray again as one of his teammates will go down, not really able to find anything with it there, but all this while they're just ticking down their penalty, content to keep Luminous back in their spawn. All they've really built up so far is the Inkstorm, and they lose 2 again, so just passively throwing out that Inkstorm is going to do something, maybe stall them for a little bit, but it's not going to be enough, and neither is Jared, I don't think. We'll see if he can 1v2.
Tall order for anybody to do, and against that kind of competition, all the same, all dude has to do is continue to fire here. The Ink Armor not really even going to need to be used there as Ghost Gaming takes a very strong game 2. I know that time we saw some points come out from Luminous, but that was, I would say, a dominating match on the Reef on Splat Zones, because it's so easy to cap back that way. You saw 2 specials was all it took to cap it back, but they came back in, and you can see there the KAs do tell the story.
And let's break down what we saw there. We suggested before this game got started that if Luminous wanted to have the best shot of taking on Ghost Gaming here, they needed not to go in solo. They needed to take as few 1v1s as possible, especially those frontliners, Jared and Dash. If they can go in together and really take on somebody like Brian when they're not very prepared, that's going to be the pick that you need in order to take the zones freely. Luminous had a bit of difficulty with that, mostly because their spawns, like you mentioned, kept getting staggered. So they were just going in one, dying, going in one, dying, and they were only ever building up on each life that Inkstorm, which was doing a little bit on the zone, but it really wasn't enough without actual human follow-up. So really, I think if they are looking to go forward here with a good shot of taking Game 3, it has to be a combined effort. You have to at least wait and make sure that you have 1 or 2 specials. Sit in spawn if you have to and build up at least 1 of those 2 specials, and go in with that instead of just trying to take team fights right off the cuff.
And let's expand on that a little bit further too. One of the things that these top teams are so good at, and of course Ghost Gaming being no exception, is knowing, okay, of course they're going to want to come in. How can we separate them? How can we divide and conquer there? And that's one of the things that makes Brian and all the members, I say Brian because a backliner I think excels at this role, identifying where the opponents are and separating them. Maybe it's with the laser, maybe it's with the shots, maybe it's just by peppering them and forcing them one way into the waiting arms of one of your teammates. But they do need to take on team fights too. But let's give Ghost Gaming some credit. They know how to split people up.
Yeah, and they know exactly when and how to be aggressive. Even if you're just using something like that Stingray as a distraction technique, it really does serve you well in terms of, like you said, splitting the enemy team apart and distracting them from their primary goal, which is to build up their special and go in together. So as we go on to the next map and mode combination, what I would like to see is for Lux to continue taking on that aggressive role. Sit in mid behind one of the obstacles if you have to, and wait for somebody like Brian or one of their more frontline players to come in and get too aggressive, get overzealous. I think Ghost Gaming, now that they're up 2-0, probably has a bit of a, I wouldn't call it a superiority complex, but you know, they're feeling pretty confident right now. So if you can just take a little bit of that away from them, if you can take an early lead in this game 3, that's going to be the small steps that snowball into the catalyst that would help you reverse sweep in this game.
Journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Winning a set begins with winning game 1. So that's your wisdom for today. That is off the top of my head, if you can believe that. But I agree with everything that you've said there. You need to find a way to build some momentum, or at the very least stifle some of the momentum that Ghost Gaming has made. So far, we've seen great individual plays being what was necessary to open things up. That second game, we saw Dash making the big plays. The first game, it was Lux. We need to see a combined effort, like you said. We need for them to kind of out Ghost Gaming, if we're being honest.
Yeah, and that, like you've said before, is a very, very tall order. We are about to go into Rainmaker on Humpback Pump Track. Both backliners, we keep talking about them, but this is a very important backliner map. If you sit on that lip and keep peppering shots into mid, it's going to be very, very difficult for the enemy team to get rid of you. Thankfully, this is a large circular open map, so there are plenty of opportunities for flanking, but that's still going to be difficult if you prepare for it.
Jared going with the vanilla Splat dualies. Of all the dualie variants, this is not one that you will see very often here. Maybe going with something along the lines of a burst bomb chip damage composition. One of the ways to break up opponents is with chip damage, but another way to break up opponents is to just hunt them down and direct them in the face, as we see there from Urza. But an interesting choice there nonetheless. Outside of that, we're seeing essentially the same composition that we have seen from Ghost Gaming. A frontliner, a Kenza sloshing machine, Dude, and Brian.
Yeah, Urza leaving no room for Jesus on that kill, getting right up in their face. And we have a great path here as Soren is able to push up. This is exactly where you want your other players, sitting right in front of the Rainmaker, and an easy path to the pedestal is a slam dunk to cap off a game 3 that is all in Ghost Gaming's favor. They are looking on fire so far.
Some smiles on the left, not as many on the right. Whatever strategy they were trying to go with that burst bomb, the vanilla dualies, never even had a chance to work. But they just got taken down, and specials got stacked against them. Look at where Urza finished the match. He finished the match floating above them with an inkjet, floating above their spawn.
I do have to say, to Luminous's great credit, they do seem to be taking this in stride. I mentioned before that if you take on a defeatist attitude when the set is not over, you're only going to be detrimenting yourself and your team. And I'm not seeing that on the side of Luminous C. They are obviously disappointed that the game didn't go in their favor, but they're taking it in stride. And so what I would suggest is if you just take a little bit of time in that lobby before the game gets started to just think about, all right, are there any weapons we haven't pulled out? Are there any secret tricks that we have up our sleeve that we want to take out? Or do we just want to keep going with what we know and playing the meta like we have been?
It's an important question. Do you reach for another weapon? Do you just trust that what you're doing can work if you do it well? There's a lot of answers that they have to find right now, and I agree taking a little bit of time to think on it would be the optimal play here. As we move on to our game 4, of course, this is a best-of-7 set here. Ghost Gaming 1 win away from punching their ticket to Grand Finals in dominating fashion. And we'll see right now what the members of Luminous C have. Man, that last game, everything that could go wrong for them did go wrong. Their frontliners went down entirely too early. Urza got some crazy shots, as he always does. Brian had his inkjet, or no, I'm sorry, not his inkjet, his Stingray to complement Urza's inkjet, and those two used those in tandem so often so well. It really was everything Ghost Gaming wanted to get out of that game.
Yeah, I don't think you can ignore how positive the early pop on the Rainmaker is on a map like Humpback Pump Track.
Exactly.
If you're able to get that first pop, you covered the entirety of the main section of the map and then some. So having that early ink advantage allowed Urza to get past the Rainmaker, pull off those 2 great kills, and Soren was easily able to just pick the Rainmaker up. Dude was on the other side of things, on the right side, blazing a path for him, building up that armor again, and that's what allowed them to have such an easy path. And like you said, just have an inkjet at the end of it sitting on top of their spawn because they prepared for it with, and it all started with, that early pop of the Rainmaker.
After that, staggered. It was always one person trying to defend. They didn't even have the chance to regroup and try to do that. Thankfully, if there's anything to be gained from this current map and mode that we're seeing, Anchovy, Tower Control, this one is a little slower. That first checkpoint can take a while to get past. If you get knocked out here, it's going to have to be wave after wave of full wipes to do that. So if there's anything that Luminous C can be happy about, at least they're going to get a chance to breathe, to think, and adapt. And Muty going with a very smart pick. I love this pick right here. That is the Kensa Undercover Umbrella. This is a full support build, trying to help things out, saying, okay, we are losing too much on the front lines. We need to find a way to get through that blaster and everything else that's being thrown at us. I like this look.
That weapon essentially has just about everything they could ask for right now. It has the canopy, which provides a little bit of shielding while you're on the tower. Also, it has a very easy way to just build up that ink armor, which is something that your team needs. If you don't have that survivability, then you are extremely lacking against a team like Ghost Gaming. Usually, the defending team wants to be the team popping the Stingray there, but it's Ghost Gaming using it offensively, and unfortunately, even though that inkjet isn't going to work, it is going to allow the tower to continue forward to the halfway mark.
Oh, Jared getting caught out. Is this really happening again? I think Soren just got a double there in a 1v2 situation. There's not really a way that you can scheme or plan around that. That's just execution. Soren going to continue to throw that. They've identified that some are coming from behind the tower. Urza already pre-firing that way. Brian adding insult to injury here with this Stingray. And if he finds either one of these people, you might be able to kiss this game goodbye.
Different map, different mode, but it feels like deja vu, and it looks like they're just going to finish this one out in record time using their specials in a fantastically effective way. Ghost Gaming puts the cherry on top and is able to win Winners Finals 4-0 and punch their ticket to Grand Finals.
Well, I said they'd have a little time to think. It was not much more time to think. Some handshakes going around here. Luminous C will take a trip down to the loser.